Okay, I'm going to talk about story, concise storytelling and gameplay. It's got to be pretty concise. How many of you, and I can barely see you with the lights, but how many of you have ever read a book? Did you like it? Uh-oh. Did you? But you've seen movies, right? I bet you didn't like any of them. Uh-oh. Okay. All right, well, that goes to premise, because we play games for entertainment. We play games for a variety of reasons, but mostly we want to have fun. Games are meant to be played. You know, games aren't about watching. You know, I know that a lot of games do have big cutscenes and big movies, and sometimes they have long, long amounts of text. People like me write them. Sorry about that. But we want to get you back in the action. So, why aren't we just using the game platform itself to tell a story? And the answer is many of us are, really. I'm being a little facetious here. Most games are meant to be played and are designed that way. But that doesn't mean we can't tell a story too. So what kind of stories do we want, though? I would rather have you go in to work the next day after playing my game, or go hang out with your friends and say, hey, here's what I did in that game, or here's how I got past that big boss, or here's how far I got in general. I mean, you really want to have a game experience that's based on the shared experience of being in the game. In the introduction, I've spent a lot of time working in tabletop. And there, you're pretty much limited to your imagination. You're sitting around there, you've got some pictures, you've got the pictures your friends drew, you got the bananas that people drew, you got any of that, and you've got the game master telling you a story. Well, computer games, we've got a computer that can handle a lot of that stuff, and there's some things that it can't, but you do have a shared experience. We all sit down, we play the same game, and we have different experiences in that game. So, shared experience, different experience, coming together to tell a story, or to relate a story, I think is a better way of putting it. Why is story important? Sometimes, as a game designer and a story writer, I feel like the redheaded stepchild of the game industry. Sorry, all you redheads out there, I can't really see you. But anyway, because I am a game designer, but I am also a writer. So players want to get on with the game. They don't want to read my long blocks of text, or hear my long dialogues, or see the cinematic cutscene that I, can't take any credit for because I can't do cinematography. But I can help you sell the gameplay. If I have a really good story, a really good intellectual property, a really good bit of fiction there, I can sell that gameplay. I can sell that game's premise. I can tell you why your abilities should work in that universe. I can bridge the gap to new challenges in the game. I can make you want to keep playing. I can keep you interested. At least I hope so. If I can find these little buttons, I can keep you interested. But seriously, after you've conquered the gameplay, think about the last time you played a game and you figured it all out. I bet it was before the end. I bet it was before the halfway point. I bet it was, probably about maybe a half hour into the game, depending on what you're playing. But you conquered the gameplay. Why'd you keep playing? Well, maybe the gameplay was fun. That's good. But I know for myself, sometimes I get a little bored. But then I want to see what's happened at the end. Mario getting the princess is not a big story, but you might want to at least see what happens. So once you've beaten the challenges, once you know the ending, the story can keep you going. If you're into MMOs, as many of us are, you might want to know what that next big boss is. That's part of the story, Having problems with the buttons again. Yeah, it was very dramatic. Frighteningly so. Technical difficulties here. We seem to be back in business. Okay. So I came up with what I call the rule of three. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard a lot of people say a rule of three. But my rule of three is how to convey a story in a game. First, you want to tell the story. Second, you want to show the story. Third, you want to experience the story. Well, what the heck's all that mean? It's three methods, three tools, three things you can use to convey a story in gameplay. Not as separate from gameplay, but in gameplay that will help sell your story. I'm going to show a couple of examples from some games. I just, if I picked a game you worked on, sorry about that. You're not getting any credit. Okay, telling, traditional storytelling. Telling a story is like reading a book or watching a movie or something. It's kind of passive, but in gameplay, it can engage you with what's going on. To one side here, we have World of Warcraft quest text. There's a little story in there. There's a story of a place, there's maybe some people, but there's also some activities you have to do. You have to go do something to advance the story. That's engaging you. It's not just being passive. To the right, I don't know if you remember those little BioShock tape recorders if you played BioShock. I strongly recommend it if you haven't. But anyway, and I didn't work on it. I don't get any royalties. I wish I did. But anyway, the tape recorders were nice. You'd pick them up. They'd tell you a little snippet of story. You were able to keep engaging in the gameplay while you were listening to the story, and it would push you along towards your next development. So telling the story helps you read, you can read it, it'll inform you, you'll understand. It's very direct, really engages the player directly. I'm going to tell you a story. However, more button fun. Most players will chew their own arms off before reading or listening to long exposition. This is why World of Warcraft lets you skip quest text. However, you don't get much out of a story if you skip it all. So what we have to do is engage the player. Keep it brief, keep it concise, keep it fun. Hopefully like I'm trying to do this presentation. 10 minutes is just the right length. Another one, show, dramatic storytelling. I picked two examples. Shadow of the Colossus has some beautiful cutscenes. It's a beautiful game in general. You really feel like you're engaged in the world when you're watching what's going on, but you are playing. One of the things that they did, that other games like God of War and stuff have done, is, hey, at a certain point, hit a button, get this really cool cinematic event. That's a way of telling the story of your character's abilities, of your defeat of the big boss. It really is a storytelling moment. On the other side, I played a game, Max Payne, several years ago, and I thought their graphic novel was very innovative. Excuse me for a second. A little bit of a cold there, possibly brought on by that rain and thunder, I don't know. But they showed you the story as you would, instead of doing like a general cutscene, they did a graphic novel. It was very dramatic to me because I'm very into reading comic books and things like that. But also it allowed me to keep pace with the story as we were going along. Showing is a good way of entertaining. It's much more fun to read a graphic novel or to watch a movie than to just sort of passively read text. It can also enlighten you. It can really get your mood going. I mean, you could see from those pictures from, Shadow of the Colossus and from Max Payne and from other things you can probably call up out of your own memory that you really felt what those characters were going through. Strong visual impact, cinematic feel. I promised my friend that I would not read off of this thing, so I'm going to skip over it. But again, player is forced to watch or view the story element. He's not playing the game while this is going on. I mean, yes, you do have that little Shadow of the Colossus moment where you hit X at the right time or something and you bury your sword in the top of its skull. But mostly, you're kind of passive still. Are you really playing a game? Hopefully, those things are short enough that you are. So you gotta keep that in mind. Finally, experience the game. Experience the story. Play, don't watch. Knights of the Old Republic and many other BioWare games do a nice thing with dialogue trees. Even though these are not super action moments, they're engaging you in storytelling. You're picking the direction your character wants to go. You're going to see a different reaction depending on which of those dialogue bits you pick up. On the other side, a game my company put out called Darksiders has really good action reveals. During the actual play of the game. Ooh, 2 minutes. Thank you. That's kind of cool. During the actual play of the game, you're seeing character development of your main character. You're seeing character development of the enemies and things. You're getting to experience what's going on in the story as opposed to just passively watching it. So again, experiencing a story, you're involving in the story, you're engaged in the story, you feel like you're part of it. It's not just a passive experience anymore, you're being drawn in. However, it can get pretty forced or it can get muddled. Even those really great dialogue trees, sometimes you see like there are 3 or 4 or 5 choices and none of them are anything you like, And that kind of pulls you out of the story because you're like, well, I wanted to do something else. Well, tough luck. You got to pick from our choices. So, you know, all these things have pros and cons. Which one's best? Each has their own strengths, weaknesses. I hope I've gone over a few of those. Different genres have favored types. MMOs really do a lot with telling. Action games really do a lot with showing. Some of our role-playing games do a lot with experiencing. If you can cross those genres, you can make an impact with your audience. You can get them thinking outside of sort of the expected box, and that will actually engage them better in the story. The more you can get your player to think, the more he's going to be receptive to your ideas. Okay, yeah, I copped out there. I didn't tell you which one was best, did I? None of them, yeah. Sorry about that. They're all pretty good. They've all got their handicaps. You have to figure out which ones you're better at. But remember what the rule of 3 really is about. Tell your story 3 different ways. Every time you have to tell a story type, even if you use the same method over and over again, tell it 3 ways, because then one of them is going to stick. And sorry, I was going to do a Q&A, but I screwed up with the slide there. But anyway, what I was trying to make the point of there at the last bit was not that you're trying to do a different type of storytelling every time. You're trying to tell the point 3 different times in hopes that one type will stick. Thank you very much.